All right, the last page. Okay, on this page you have 30, 60, 90 triangles involved now. So remember, in any time you have a special right triangle like a 30, 60, 90 or 45, 45, 90 triangle, you are not allowed to use trig. You have to keep your answers in simplest radical form. But the tricky part is figuring out when to use trig, when to use Pythagorean theorem, and when to use 30, 60, 90, 45, 45, 90 triangles. All right, so looking at 24, you have two sides of a right triangle, you're finding the third side. In this case, you would use the Pythagorean theorem. So you got 7 squared plus 24 squared is equal to x squared. I know that 7, 24, 25 is actually a special type of right triangle. So when you solve that Pythagorean theorem out, you actually get x is 25. All right, 25. You've got a 30, 60, 90 triangle. So that means this is my 60-degree angle. I have my 30-degree angle. This is my short leg, and that's good. You want the short leg because you take the short leg, you multiply by 2 to get the hypotenuse. So that means that x is 20. And then you take the short leg and you multiply by root 3 to get the long leg, the leg across from the 60. So that's 10 times root 3. All right, 26 to 45, 45, 90 triangle. They gave you one of the legs. That means that the other leg is also 12, so x is 12. And then you take the leg and multiply by root 2 to get the hypotenuse. So your hypotenuse is 12 root 2. All right, 27. A 30, 60, 90 triangle. This time they didn't give you the short leg, because if you had the short leg, you multiply by 2 to get the hypotenuse. They gave you the hypotenuse, so to work backwards to get the short leg, you're going to divide by 2. That means that x has to be 12. Now you have the short leg, and you take the short leg and multiply by root 3 to get the long leg, which is the leg across from the 60, so y is 12 root 3. Number 28, you've got a side, another side, and you're looking for the third side, so this is Pythagorean theorem. X squared plus 16, which is 4 squared, is equal to 100, which is 10 squared. All right, so you've got x squared is equal to 74, because it's 100 minus 16 from both sides. Take the square root of both sides. X is equal to the square root of 74. And now we have to try and simplify 74. So you're going to take 74, maybe divide by 4 as a perfect square. Nope. 74 divided by 9. The next perfect square would be 16. Alright. 74 divided by, it's not 25 is going to work. Don't think 36 will work. 74 divided by, what's x? 49. None of these numbers seem to be working. Divided by 64 is not going to work. Dividing by 2, 37, nope. Alright, so none of those numbers, none of those perfect squares seem to work. So you can just leave this as the square root of 74. And I just realized what I did wrong on that problem. It's not 74, it is 84, and that's why it wasn't working. Okay, so this is the square root of 84. So now when you go back and you take 84 and divide by 4, which is your second perfect square, you get 21. That's much better. Alright, so you've got square root of 84, which is the square root of 4 times the square root of 21. Square root of 4 is 2, and then times the square root of 21. So x is 2 times the square root of 21. Okay, sorry about that. Alright, 29. You've got a 45, 45, 90 triangle because these two sides are equal, which means these two angles are equal, and since you have 90 degrees, these must each be 45. You have the hypotenuse of a 45, 45, 90 triangle. Most of the time, if they give you the leg, you multiply by root 2 to get the hypotenuse. So we know that 16 has to equal the leg times root 2. We're solving for the leg, so you're going to divide both sides by root 2. So 16 over root 2 is equal to x. But since you can't have a square root in the denominator, you are going to rationalize by multiplying by root 2 over root 2. That is going to give you 16 root 2 over 2. And then 16 divided by 2 is 8. So you get x is equal to 8 root 2. All right, number 30. You've got a 30, 60, 90 triangle. This is your 60-degree side. They actually give you the longer side, which is 15. So normally, if you have the shorter side, you multiply by root 3 to get the longer side. So you know that 15 is going to be equal to the shorter side times root 3. Again, you're solving for x, so you're going to divide both sides by root 3. So 15 over root 3 is equal to x, but you can't have a square root in the denominator, so you're going to rationalize the denominator and get 15 root 3 over 3. 15 over 3 is 5, so 5 root 3 is equal to your short leg. Then from the short leg, you multiply by 2 to get the hypotenuse. So 5 root 3 times 2 is 10 root 3. All right, and the last problem. You've got two triangles combined in one. On the left, you've got a 45, 45, 90 triangle. That means if this side is 7, this side is also 7. Since you have the legs, you multiply by root 2 to get the hypotenuse, so 7 root 2 is x. Then you're using the 7 for a 30, 60, 90 triangle. Since 60 is your second biggest angle, since it's not the 90 degree here, okay, this 7 is the longer leg of your triangle. So to get the shorter leg, normally you would take the shorter leg and multiply by root 3, so you're going to divide by root 3. So 7 divided by root 3, rationalize the denominator, gives you 7 root 3 over 3. So this is the short side of your triangle. Then you take the short side, you multiply by 2 to get the hypotenuse. So the hypotenuse is 14 root 3 over 3.